What's going on, coin traders? It's Theta time, THETA on that ticker Theta. Just want to talk about this chart because we have a huge break in structure, but do want to specifically look a lot more on the longer term and talk about this overall structure for Theta on the weekly, because right now the longer weekly is playing out to be a lot more relevant, especially as we do some historical analysis on what actually happened back in 2020 and 2021. When we did have that bull cycle kick off. So do have to talk about it today in the show for Theta, because right now, extremely important to understand this setup. And so right now, one of the big things is that we had an extremely big resistance trend line forming for Theta coming off of a trend high. So big thing when we do have a high come in and then a trend line forming is that this is an extremely bearish sign. And so especially when we look at supports for this, we had two forming. We could look at price first. So from the low, forming a little bit of a wedge pattern, obviously got an extremely big bearish breakout, but then in addition as well, also have 50 period EMA formation for support. And then also we do have price level support coming in right at the 250 mark. So plenty of support points that we actually broke through, both in terms of the 50 period EMA, this price level right at 250, and then also this trend line. So extremely bad bearish sign. And then right now we are going to be looking up at those levels being that supportive resistive zone. So even the most bullish optimistic scenario right now, especially after getting a little bit of bullish candles here, still needing to see a lot more upside, but we do know that that is going to come in right around the 250 mark right now for Theta, given the exponential moving average resistance, as well as, like we said, the price level resistance right at 250, and then also this trend line. So not necessarily expecting the bulls to be able to push prices back up, but if we do, then we would still be sitting inside this overall longer term consolidation inside this downtrend resistance line. And that would need to see a very big break in order to flip it before running up to see a new test of the current trend high. So still a long way away from that being the case and that happening. So right now we are still sitting in this more or less consolidation sideways pattern after a huge and extreme pullback. So if we actually look from the upper trend line down to the low, looking at a big pullback of about 45%. Now, if we look at from the current trend high right now to the bottom, almost 55%. So a very normal pullback right now that we're seeing for most of altcoins. But this is where I do want to actually go ahead and flip into the weekly chart here, because we are actually looking better than most altcoins right now in terms of this weekly chart setup, specifically because we still are holding a very nice support level in between the 12 and 26 period EMAs right now on this very normal retracement. And in addition to that, on this retracement as well, little bit of a bear selling pressure coming in. So not as much as we actually experienced on this very nice bullish run up that we did see, especially after we kicked off EMA support and showed a lot of upside gains on huge increasing of bullish volume. So on the pullback and retracement right now, very normal. This is exactly what we want to see, especially after we do get such a huge and a big air gap between the price and the 12 period EMA. So we always know that at some point that actually is coming. Unfortunately, on these longer term charts, that does mean it takes a lot longer to play out. So we will be looking at about 2 months so far when we do actually probably finally start to see some upside momentum. So coming in at a high, that 11th of March, that was the bar when we did set our trend high. So far, we are in the 6th bar right now, obviously, with just one very small bullish candle. The rest are very small as well for bearish bodies. And even zooming out, you can see how not too much selling pressure on these pullbacks. So nice rally, pullback, decreasing bearish volume right now. And all of these also had increasing bullish volume. So very nice to see. So a lot of this momentum extremely strong. And this is exactly the type of setup that we need to see. And that's why right now, this is one of the better setups for the altcoin space right now for things that we have found with Theta. So doing a look at a Fibonacci right now from the most recent swing low just below $1 all the way up to the high right now just below $4. And this is a perfect retracement right now, finding support on the 61.8. Now we did see prices wicking down in between this zone from 61.8 to 78.6. And obviously, as you can see on this weekly, kicked off very nice from the 12 period EMA. So this is an extremely nice supportive zone, and we would expect this to hold, especially in this very nice longer term bullish formation, where we are seeing the low setting a high, pull back, higher low, and then now higher high on this weekly chart. So even a Fibonacci from the low back in the fall before the rally all the way up to the current trend high right now, still looking at support being found on top of the 61.8. So extremely strong relevant level, 61.8 coming in at 180 right now if we do use the low, which would be down to 55.8 cents. So now do have to zoom out and talk about the longer structure of this overall chart for the weekly, because we know that when we do actually get a cross in the weekly EMAs, that is pretty significant. So if we actually go back all the way into 2020, we were looking at the cross coming in right around the start to middle of May in 2020. And so then when we actually did get our bearish cross again, which did happen around the start of 2022, that did kind of confirm the longer term bear market that we experienced. And obviously prices didn't get above that until now we did flip into a bullish formation. So that's another reason why it is such a good sign and kind of a pattern setup right now for this theta chart, that we had a very nice closing of the gap between all these EMAs. Prices got tight. We had a nice bull break, the very nice back test, and then a very nice follow through from the bulls, increasing bullish volume like we talked about, which was actually the largest amount of volume that we had seen since the beginning of August in 2022. So about a year and a half for the biggest amount of bullish volume that we've seen on a weekly candle come in here. Now, turning on the technicals for Theta right now, specifically weekly RSI, looking at the RSI peak come in where we're looking at RSI peak of 88.85. This is a good sign because we're actually seeing higher highs in RSI with higher highs in price. So strength of the trend still to the upside, which is another reason why we are expecting this pullback to be extremely nice, find support, and then continue on with its rally, or even potentially lead into a little bit longer consolidation, forming up for a Wyckoff Phase E breakout. So the pattern right now for the weekly does set up for a very nice longer term Wyckoff consolidation, or accumulation pattern here, where we are looking at Phase D being this very nice breakout. So on the longer term scale, a lot of cryptos are shaping up with this exact same pattern, and we are expecting it out of Theta as well, especially after a very nice Phase C turning into a Phase D, showing a nice sign of strength. And then we would expect and anticipate this to have an extremely nice Phase E breakout, just like we saw back on the 2020 and 2021 cycle. Unfortunately, like we said, that does mean that it is going to take a little bit more time from here. So just be patient because we are on the weekly time frame here. Obviously, everything else is starting to break structure, but longer term charts are still sitting nice. So we do have to focus on those most, since they are the most relevant, especially in terms of longer term trends. Now, I do want to flip over into the 2-day chart really quick before we do wrap up, because obviously since we did lose first the 12 and 26 supports for these EMAs, definitely broke 50-period EMA support as well, but we are holding it up as resistance. Now, the last time we actually saw prices go below the 50-period EMA resistance, prices didn't spend that long there before they actually ran up, kicked off the 1226 resistances, and then finally broke back bullish on top of that. So hopefully that is what we are going to be able to find, where we do see a little bit of resistance, but then ultimately we do see prices recover here fairly quickly. The longer it does take for prices to get back on top of this 50-period EMA, the more likely we are going to continue to think that this is just a downside continuation pattern, and that the upside ability of the bulls is no longer going to be intact for prices to return to test some of these upside resistances. Now, we're at kind of a weird level here, right around the $2 psychological mark, but if we actually zoom out and look all the way on the left over here during the beginning of 2021, we actually had a very nice period of consolidation and accumulation, especially kicking off this very nice 12-period EMA. And that is kind of the heartline right now that we're looking at for price coming in just around the $2 psychological mark. So that's why this is a very nice spot for actually seeing prices kind of stabilize in this instance. And like we talk about on the channel, when we do see opportunities for consolidation and then continuation, this leads to a very nice downside support area if and when we actually do return to it, which is kind of exactly what we're seeing right now. So hopefully this can be a very nice opportunity and guide to see a little bit more support on the current pullback, where we can actually kick off some of the longer term EMAs and have that lead to that nice Phase E breakout, showing a little bit more sign of strength to the upside and a lot more price action in the direction that we typically all prefer. So do think it will take a little bit more time for some sentiment shift. Obviously, this is kind of one of the worst candle setups, especially after 4 small bodies of bullish upside. One ginormous candle just wiping out everything and pushing prices extremely low, which is what we have seen on a lot of these bearish candles. We have seen the magnitudes, unfortunately, be extremely great. So that does show a little bit more strength. But like we said, we are seeing a decrease in overall selling volume. Overall, though, I think just based on the longer term structure, we are going to see Theta be a lot more of a spotlight and kind of a bigger name. It did well last cycle, but I do think it will be one of the good ones that we also see performing pretty well and forming new all-time highs, especially just based off how the structure is formed and set up so far. Does place it in a very nice opportunity for continued action to the upside on the bull run that we are about to and kind of expecting to experience here in the upcoming year to year and a half. Obviously, still just speculation, though, so let me know your thoughts, questions, comments, issues, disagreements, predictions, all that down below in the comments section. I do love getting back to each and every one of you. And with that, that actually is going to go ahead and wrap up the show for today on Theta, THETA on that ticker. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Do greatly appreciate it. Also appreciate all the continued love and support. As always, it does mean so much. Stay safe, take care, and I'll catch you back in the next video.